Here's the deal: more people, less water, older pipes. And in these 10 cities, that math gets ugly fast. We'll map the places where groundwater depletion weakens the ground itself, where flood-prone treatment plants go offline under extreme weather, and where non-revenue water and leaks blow holes in budgets. Experts already graded U.S. drinking water, infrastructure a C-, and climate extremes are adding interest to that debt. Watch as we trace how a quiet drop in water tables can become a loud crack in your foundation, your premiums, and your resale value. Before we continue, hit subscribe so you never miss the latest updates. Number 1. Phoenix, Arizona. You're buying a house, but the fine print says your collateral is the Colorado River. That's Phoenix. Here's the thing: the metro scaled on cheap dirt, cheap taps, and that glossy, master-planned promise. The Central Arizona project rolled in like an endless conveyor belt of water, and developers built as if it could never blink. Pools, cul-de-sacs, HOAs with 3 pages on gravel color. Growth felt automatic. But here's the catch: those Tier 1 and Tier 2. Shortage calls slice into the pie even if you don't see it in your kitchen sink today. When the river tightens, the fallback is pumping. Pump hard and the ground settles. Not evenly. Pipes stretch, joints pop, and the repair crews play whack-a-mole across pressure zones. It's not Hollywood dramatic. It's slow, expensive, and constant. Drive to the new edges and you see the stakes. Fringe subdivisions lean on aquifers that recharge like a lazy Sunday. Permits sprint, while assured water supply rules jog. That's where moratorium chatter hits the local news. Nobody wants to be the last lot sold before the paperwork freezes. A builder can smile at a ribbon cutting, but your mortgage clock's 30 years, not 30 months. Zoom under the slab. INSAR mapping flagged hotspots where groundwater declines match land motion. Experts warn that once the clay is compact, that space is gone. No springback. That's the part buyers miss. Recharge won't refluff compressed layers. You pay for it in door frames that go crooked and in roads that ripple like they're tired of being straight. It's like financing a skyscraper on a mattress. Look stable until the springs give. Stack the receipts. Drought contingency cutbacks squeeze imports. Heat waves push demand on the exact day's supply wobbles, and non-revenue leaks bleed utility budgets that already need bigger wrenches and deeper trenches. Those dollars land on your bill as adjustments, surcharges, and other cute words for more money. Let that sink in. So what happens when insurers bake cracked slabs into premiums and lenders model utility surcharges as risk? Underwriting turns picky. Appraisals start asking, which aquifer? Which pressure zone? What's the land motion trend? Suddenly the house next door isn't a comp. It's a different geology. Mini payoff. Phoenix isn't running dry tomorrow, but the buffer is thin, and the price of certainty is paid by address, by aquifer, and by maintenance line item. So if Phoenix is a bet on a shrinking river, the next one built an entire brand on neon in the desert. Number 2. Las Vegas, Nevada. Vegas solved water until it didn't. The straw got deeper, the lake got lower, the bill got bigger. Here's the thing: Southern Nevada didn't sit around. They ripped out lawns, paid bounties on turf, and turned outdoor watering into a compliance sport. The low lake level intake? That was the lifeline. When Lake Mead slipped, the Strip kept drinking because engineers drilled a straw to the bottom and flipped the switch. Per person use dropped hard. The casinos learned to recycle every drop like it's VIP. But here's the catch: growth doesn't listen. New rooftops keep stacking up, and that white bathtub ring around Lake Mead just snickers. Extreme heat spikes hit on the worst days when evaporation kicks up and inflows sag. So yes, you can squeeze lawns and time sprinklers to the minute, but that doesn't erase the load of more cul-de-sacs, more pools, more logistics parks, misting dust at noon because the wind hates your eyeballs. Take the fines. A 1,200 a day lawn kind of vibe. Sounds fierce, works on the edges, but outdoor cuts can't cover infinite build-out. There's a ceiling once you've skinned the grass and tuned the irrigation. The next gains are slower, costlier, and land on ratepayers like hidden gym fees you forgot to cancel. Hydrology plus climate change is a tag team. Lower inflows, higher evaporation. Federal shortage declarations clip allocations for the whole basin, which means Nevada's slice is rule-bound, not vibes-bound. And while SNWA shows those clean per capita charts trending down, the total demand line keeps flirting upward as more people arrive with moving trucks and a love for backyard shade. It's like losing your salary every year but taking on a bigger mortgage because you found coupons. Clever, but the math still side-eyes you. Now the receipts. SNWA's conservation dense use per person, drought on the Colorado accelerates, and the mega-dollar intakes, pumps, and treatment upgrades don't pay for themselves. Infrastructure costs slide into your bill with names like service charge and capital recovery. That's real cash, month after month. So lenders and insurers start asking new questions. What's the tail risk if Lake Mead hangs low for a decade? What happens to premiums if the reservoir yo-yos under tighter federal rules? Core Vegas, with dense reuse and priority pipes, looks resilient. Exurbs with big lots and thinner systems feel the squeeze first when the rules tighten again. Tucson doesn't have the Strip's PR machine, just a slow, grinding math problem underground. Number 3, Tucson, Arizona. Tucson banked water in the ground like a savings account. Then climate turned the interest rate negative. Here's the thing, Tucson became the teacher's pet for planning. Managed aquifer recharge took Colorado River imports from KP and stashed them underground, building a cushion you could brag about at city council meetings. The logic was clean: store in wet years, withdraw in dry years, and keep native wells from getting hammered. For a while it worked. Taps were steady, growth looked safe, and the aquifer graphs trended the right way. But here's the catch: those imports are on a diet. Shortage declarations shrink the recharge pipeline, so the city leans more on native groundwater, which is not a bottomless pit. Meanwhile, hotter summers push base demand up even when people try to conserve. That means the savings account loses deposits while withdrawals rise. You feel it in operating costs, in power to pump deeper, and in scheduling recharge when the flows actually show up. Now, drop to the street level. Older neighborhoods with legacy mains carry leak risk, especially during heat waves when pressure swings get cranky. Differential land motion doesn't send a calendar invite. One block settles a hair faster, the next lifts a touch, and suddenly roadbeds flex and valves misalign. Repairs pile up in weird clusters. It's not dramatic TV, it's a slow tax on every mile of pipe. Research backs the pattern. Confined systems link groundwater declines to subsidence, and damage comes from uneven movement, angular distortion, not just raw sinking. The study flags high and very high hazard zones using angular distortion thresholds, and notes that over 0.06 degrees is likely to cause the development and slash or propagation of structural deterioration. Translation: small tilts, big bills. Material, age, maintenance, soil type. All play into whether a crack is cosmetic or a lawsuit. It's like leveling your house while the ground keeps exhaling. Close enough until it isn't. Evidence stacks up. INSAR shows subsidence patches shadowing heavy pumping zones. Cap reductions complicate recharge calendars and trim volumes, which forces planners to juggle wells, surface water, and storage targets with less slack. So what happens when appraisers start asking for soil reports and foundation scans as standard? Underwriting math changes. Listings take longer. Discounts sneak in. Mini payoff. Tucson's planning buys time, not immunity. If you're buying here, learn the aquifer under your block, the land motion trend on your parcel, and how your utility fixes leaks. Now let's head west, where rivers run dry on maps and lawns are a personality test. Number 4, Riverside, California. Logistics boom, warehouse jobs, cheaper homes. What could go wrong? Water that doesn't pencil. Here's the thing. Riverside rides LA spillover like it's a side hustle that became the main job. Builders keep stretching the map, swapping orange groves for rooftops and cul-de-sacs that kiss the county line. Families trade coastal prices for a garage and a backyard. It works, until you read the water plan. The city leans hard on imports from the State Water Project, which is basically a mood ring for California's climate, regulations, and who yells loudest that year. Allocations swing. Growth plans don't like swing. But here's the catch. Local basins already carry a history of overdraft drama, and imported water is not a guaranteed refill button. When the SWP tightens, the Metropolitan Water District trims deliveries or pivots to pricier sources. That cost rolls downhill. Meanwhile, hotter summers mean your AC runs longer and your water use creeps up, exactly when supply gets complicated. Demand spikes meet supply jitters. That is not the match you want. Now go under the streets. Older distribution lines keep seeping money as non-revenue water. Treated, pumped, paid for, then lost. Sprawl stretches pressure zones farther than they were built for, so a tiny leak turns into a pressure drop that nags every fire hydrant and kitchen sink on a block. Breaks don't announce themselves. They show up with overtime pay and a groan from the utilities budget. Subsidence and flood risk tag team the valleys. When land settles unevenly, Pipes and roadbeds take the stress, and then a heavy rain pops manholes and swamps treatment plants that were already flirting with capacity. You can have a drought on Monday and a flood bill on Friday. The treadmill keeps speeding up. It's like building a city on a treadmill. More people, faster belt, weaker knees. Receipts, drought allocations to MWD/SWP flows, pushing Riverside toward costlier backups. Local aquifers come with overdraft histories and nearby adjudications, so you don't just flip a switch and pump your way out. Capital projects line up, from leak detection to plant upgrades, and somebody has to pay. So, what happens when rate hikes hit wage-sensitive households while CapEx backlogs stack up? Delinquencies rise, maintenance defers, and the system ages faster than you can finance it. Appraisers start factoring utility reliability and slab risk. Time on market stretches. Discounts appear. Mini payoff. Riverside's affordability hides a water premium that lands on your bill, your slab, and your resale window. Next door, San Bernardino plays the same game with even older pipes and tighter budgets. Number 5, San Bernardino, California. The listing price looks great, the soil mechanics not so much. Here's the thing. San Bernardino woos you with square footage and a backyard the dog can actually sprint across. Median home price under coastal levels, space for a workshop, and a payment that doesn't set off a panic attack. It targets buyers pushed east by sticker shock, and it works. Until you read the utility files and the capital plans stacked like unpaid parking tickets. But here's the catch. Years of underinvestment in water infrastructure meet governance struggles and a grid full of older mains. Those pipes don't love pressure swings, and they really don't love heat waves. You get leak clusters, sudden breaks, and a repair queue that chases itself. When budgets lag and parts age out, temporary fix becomes a lifestyle. This isn't a rural problem. Urban systems crack under stress too. Pressure drops show up first at the tap. Weak showers, sputtering fixtures, and if a main fails near a well field or treatment node, you can see precautionary boil water advisories even in the city. Add power outages from heat or storms, and pumps falter, valves slam, and you get surges that finish what corrosion started. One scorch week can create a month of maintenance. Research flags the deeper risk. Differential settlement near pumping cones warps roads, tilts curbs, and puts torque on foundations. Subsidence is spotty yet severe. Blocks can shift while the next street stays calm. The rate isn't the only villain. Uneven movement is. Small angles, big damage. Overlong mortgages, that's not noise. It's a remodel you didn't plan. Think of a Jenga tower where random blocks are soft clay, fine until the wrong one shifts. Evidence backs the budget pain. Distressed systems bleed non-revenue water, which means treated, pumped, and paid for water goes missing through leaks. Climate extremes pour gasoline on that fire, amplifying break frequency and overtime spend. The bill lands in rate increases, surcharges, and deferred fixes that circle back as emergencies. So what happens when lenders start asking for soil and utility risk disclosures the way they do for flood? Underwriting tightens. Appraisals start pricing land motion and pipe age. Days on market stretch. The deal starts blinking caution yellow. Mini payoff. The discount here can morph into a repair subscription. Foundation tweaks, slab injections, surprise plumbing, eating your equity drip by drip. Drive up the 99 and you hit a farm economy city where the ground literally records every gallon pulled. Number 6, Fresno, California. Your backyard and a 10,000-acre almond farm share the same bank account, the aquifer. Here's the thing. Fresno sits on the San Joaquin Valley's pumping treadmill. Agriculture built the economy by pulling groundwater hard, and urban growth hit the same straw. Now, SGMA steps in like a strict accountant. Groundwater sustainability plans, deadlines, audits, the whole suit and clipboard energy. The goal is to tame overdraft and slow the sink. On paper, that means less pumping over time. In real life, you're buying a house on a schedule that squeezes supply while demand for rooftops keeps rising. But here's the catch. When farms cut back, the pressure doesn't vanish. Housing still leans on stressed wells, even as agencies try to balance books with imports, recharge, and conservation. Meanwhile, the subsurface remembers everything. Compact clays and the land doesn't bounce back. Permanent. Locked. That's not a scare line. That's geotechnical math that stares at you from a foundation report. Look at the receipts in the valley's past. Historic mega subsidence lowered canal elevations and kinked conveyance. The California aqueduct lost capacity where the ground dropped, which forces pricier fixes and weird hydraulics. If a canal can sag, your street isn't special. Driveways tilt, curbs drift, and utility laterals take the torque. Homes are not immune just because the cracks show up slowly and the paint hides them for a season. Research backs the playbook. A nature analysis flags high-exposure metros and highlights the role of confined aquifers and strong subsidence correlations. In studied cities, vertical deformation ties tightly to groundwater level changes within confined systems, with a reported correlation of 0.87, suggesting most of the motion tracks pumping. The same study warns that differential settlement, measured by angular distortion, drives damage. Small angles, outsized repairs. It's real, it's happening. It's like lowering the floor while you're arranging the furniture. Nothing sits right after. Evidence stacks. Documented subsidence along the California aqueduct isn't folklore, it's maintenance orders and budget line items. SGMA's timelines stretch years, but near-term housing pressure arrives now, which means local agencies juggle cutbacks, recharge windows, and rate setting under a microscope. You pay in higher utility costs and slab work and in patience. So, appraisal gaps show up when buyers price in foundation risk and rising water bills. Lenders start asking tougher site questions. Time on market stretches. Discounts creep. Mini payoff. Fresno's affordability is real, but it carries a geotechnical surcharge that compounds. Now to Bakersfield, where oil, ag, and aquifers collide. Number 7, Bakersfield, California. The land moves here, slowly, and your house keeps the receipt. Here's the thing. Bakersfield blends oil fields and orchards and both pull on the same subsurface systems. Groundwater feeds irrigation. Water and fluids move for energy work. Over time, that extraction compacts the layers that used to act like a cushion. The surface responds by settling, not in a headline-grabbing drop, but in a steady creep that shows up in curbs, driveways, and the way a door starts to rub the jam. But here's the catch. Overdraft and compaction don't just bend a sidewalk, they rewrite drainage maps. A lot that shed water cleanly 10 years ago now holds a shallow pool after a normal storm. Street grades lose their pitch by a fraction, and stormwater that used to flow to an inlet stalls in the gutter. Bearing capacity changes with that compaction, so slabs and block walls pick up stress they were never priced for. It's structural math you notice only when you're writing checks. You see it in small, annoying places first. Backyard drains that once cleared in minutes now burp and linger. HOA basins sit wet for days because the outfall lost grade. Treatment networks built to a fixed elevation need regrading and retrofit dollars to keep the system moving. Lift stations, manholes, even simple swales, all want an adjustment. None of it is flashy. All of it costs. Research backs the risk. Damage doesn't wait for dramatic sinking. Angular distortion, uneven tilt, signals when walls crack and doors stick. And those localized hotspots matter more than a metro-wide average. One subdivision can hum along while the next block over quietly deforms into a repair plan. That variability is the trap. It's like tilting a pinball machine. You don't notice until the ball won't go where it should. Evidence piles up in maps and budgets. INSAR datasets show patchy high-rate subsidence stitched across the area, the kind that turns a straight grade into a ripple. Meanwhile, maintenance backlogs stack because dollars are finite. Crews triage leaks, lift sags, and chase ponding complaints while capital plans wait their turn. So how do HOAs and small landlords shoulder foundation injections, extra drainage work, and slab stitching while insurance tightens and exclusions multiply? Cash reserves shrink. Special assessments show up. Rents creep, and resale negotiations turn into repair lists. Mini payoff? Bakersfield's risk isn't dramatic in a day, it's cumulative, and cumulative is brutal to equity. Head to the desert resort dream, where golf greens meet groundwater math. Number 8, Palm Springs, California. Pools, palms, and a water tab that always finds you. Here's the thing. Palm Springs sells the oasis hard. Resorts stack greens and blue pools against a desert backdrop, and tourism pays for the shine. Golf courses double as marketing. Lawns frame the mid-century lines. The Coachella Valley identity is lush by design, which means water stays part of the brand even when the sky says no. Local agencies run managed recharge to keep the bank account alive, but the show depends on steady imports and steady visitors. Here's the catch. Imports wobble, and the local aquifers carry the slack. Prolonged drought trims the pipeline and pushes more pumping, so the cushion thins while the thermostat climbs. You get a double hit. The supply sees more variability, and the demand curve rises. That tension doesn't announce itself on a brochure. It shows up in rate cases, pumping schedules, and emergency repair memos you never see until the surcharge lands on your bill. Now walk the block at sunset. Outdoor use spikes right when nights stay hot. Sprinklers click on, pools cool down, and irrigation zones whisper in the dark. Peak demand leans on pipes and pumps already working overtime. Meanwhile, leakage is real. Every system has it. Treated water slips into soil instead of sprinklers, which means you pay for water that never waters. Stack that on top of aging laterals and long service lines, and capacity looks tighter than the map suggests. Research backs the ground truth. Instability isn't just sinking straight down, even uplift zones can carry high angular distortion. Translation: uneven motion crack stuff. Buildings, curbs, buried mains, none of them care if the average elevation rose a hair when one corner lifts while another settles. Risk hides in the difference, not the headline. It's like wearing a tux over hiking boots. Looks fine until you have to move fast. Receipts? Regional groundwater management plans juggle recharge with supply swings. Conservation mandates lean on resort landscaping, pushing xeriscapes, recycled water, and less turf. Land motion varies across the valley, which means one HOA pays for slab stitching, while the next pays for irrigation retrofits. None of that screams luxury. All of it drains reserves. So, what happens to premiums when HOAs face water surcharges and course conversions? Luxury spreads shrink. Sales slow. Buyers budget the add-ons and nibble the list price. Mini payoff. The view stays Instagrammable, but carrying costs trend up, and resale windows get shorter. Let's swing east to a high-desert city that sells sunsets and quietly tracks its water ledger daily. Number 9, Albuquerque, New Mexico. The Rio Grande is the headline, but the aquifer is the plot twist. Here's the thing. Albuquerque runs a dual playbook. Surface water when the river's behaving, groundwater when it isn't. The city built that blend for resilience, and it works, until allocations on the Rio Grande dip and the pumps take center stage. Then the aquifer becomes the workhorse again, and the meter starts running under your slab, not just at your tap. But here's the catch. Drought flips the switch more often now. When river deliveries shrink, the wells pick up the slack, just as heat and aridity nudge everyone's baseline use higher. Managed recharge helps refill the tank, but the timing rarely lines up neatly with need. So, utilities juggle pumping schedules, power costs, and storage targets, while summer demand hums like a space heater left on in July. Walk the older neighborhoods and you see the soft costs. Legacy mains sweat out non-revenue water, treated, pumped, paid for, gone into the ground through pinhole leaks and brittle joints. That's lost supply in a quiet budget drain. And the longer those lines stay in service past their replacement schedule, the more each heat wave turns into a leak lottery that nobody wants to win. Research backs the risk profile. Citywide land motion can look tame, but near historic pumping centers you get localized subsidence that does the real damage. Building risk is about differential, not averages. A fraction more tilt across a lot line can turn a hairline into a stair-step crack, warp a curb, or throw a sewer lateral out of alignment. You won't see it on a skyline. You will feel it in doors that stop latching and repair quotes that start stacking. It's like a stereo with one speaker slowly fading. You don't notice until the song sounds wrong. Receipts show up in maps and memos. INSAR flags hotspots around older cones of depression. Municipal reports talk leak reduction targets, pressure management, and pipe renewal pacing, all while trying to keep rates tolerable. The question is whether conservation gains can keep pace with hotter summers and more groundwater duty cycles. So, will buyers start reading utility asset reports like HOA docs, main age, non-revenue water percentages, and replacement backlogs suddenly look like line items on your mortgage math. Mini payoff. Albuquerque can balance the ledger if conservation holds, but the buffer is thinner than the marketing. Final stop. A border city that straddles two countries and one very stressed river. Number 10. El Paso, Texas. El Paso learned early, diversify or dry. The learning never stops. Here's the thing. The water portfolio is a mashup by design. Surface water from the Rio Grande when it runs. Groundwater from the Hueco Bolson and Mesilla Bolson when it doesn't. Advanced reuse to stretch every gallon twice. Desal in the toolkit for the salty stuff. That mix is the city's edge. It spreads risk across sources, seasons, and plants, so one bad year doesn't torch the whole plan. But here's the catch. River flows swing like a mood chart. Upstream use, drought, and the Rio Grande Compact shape what actually arrives. The aquifers have a depletion history and recharge is limited in this climate. Now layer on extreme heat that spikes peak demand right when pumps and treatment are already maxed. The math tightens, margins shrink. Your bill feels it before your faucet does. Let's make it concrete. Cutting-edge reuse buys time, but it's not free. Capital costs for advanced treatment are big. Energy costs stay glued to every gallon you push through membranes and UV. And cross-border treaty flows add a diplomatic timer to the whole system. When deliveries slip or timing shifts, the operations team rebalances sources in real time. Reliable for now, but delicate. One delay ripples into rates, maintenance, and scheduling. Research backs the ground risk. Confined aquifer declines correlate strongly with subsidence. Even small annual drops matter over a 30-year mortgage. You don't need dramatic sinking to rack up repairs. Uneven movement bends curbs, tweaks slabs, and nudges sewer laterals out of grade. It's a slow bill. It's like juggling with one hand tied. Doable until someone tosses a chainsaw labeled heat dome. Here are the receipts. INSAR shows localized land motion in spots tied to pumping history. The Rio Grande Compact constrains what can be taken and when, which forces careful planning even in wet cycles. Utility rate structures already reflect big capital projects and operating costs for reuse and desal, so the resilience premium sits inside the monthly line items with very official names. So how long before lenders price water resilience into interest rates here? Underwriting loves predictability. Variability gets a surcharge. If rates start to mirror supply risk, neighborhoods on the edge feel it first in appraisals and days on market. Mini payoff. El Paso is proactive, but the margin is engineered, not natural. Homeowners ride the utility's execution risk. That's the list. 10 markets where the currency isn't dollars, it's gallons. Housing bubbles run on vibes. They burst on utilities. Water is the balance sheet under your slab. So here's the thing. Before you buy, read the water portfolio and the utility reports. That's the due diligence that actually protects equity. Like this video so the algorithm thinks I'm important. Comment H2-O-no or I'm still buying and tell me which city you'd risk. It's like shopping for a Tesla and ignoring the charging map. Great car, bad trip. Would you live where your mortgage depends on a river 300 miles away? Let that sink in. And if you're moving soon, start with the pipes, not the paint. That's it for today. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more updates you won't want to miss.